Hello there, watching L24 Midnight News Edition, coming to you live from Algiers. And to the headlines. While Washington and Riyadh initiatives did not result in any agreement, leaders from Sudan's 6 neighboring countries met in Cairo for peace talks again and urged to put an end to the fighting. In the Middle East, including one woman, Zionist occupation forces on Thursday detained 16 Palestinians from several areas in the occupied West Bank. And in Europe, President Vladimir Putin said that Ukraine's membership in NATO will pose a threat to Moscow's security and was one of the reasons for Moscow to launch its military operation in Ukraine. And in sport, Algerian national football team leads Group G in the FIFA 2026 World Cup African qualifiers, alongside Uganda, Mozambique, Somalia, Botswana and Guinea. Hello again and welcome. Starting from the local matter, Algerian Minister of Environment Faiza Dahleb represented Algeria at the high-level preparatory meeting of the African heads of the state of the government in preparation for the African Climate Summit scheduled from September 4 to the 6th in Kenya. Minister of Environment stressed the importance of placing the African continent at the heart of problem of climate finance, as it is the most affected by the negative effects of climate change. In a different topic now, the Moroccan Association for Human Rights has called for a protest in front of Parliament in Rabat to condemn the suppression of the rights and freedoms by the Makhzen regime. Hassan Burkan.
The Makhzen regime's repressive policies have created an atmosphere of tension, leading to the streets becoming the only refuge for individuals and groups to voice their concerns about the suppression of rights and freedoms in Morocco. Activists and jurists critical of the regime continue to face harassment and restrictions. In response to the ongoing attacks and campaigns against human rights and democratic movements, the Moroccan Association for Human Rights is resisting the imposed siege by organizing a protest to demonstrate their steadfastness.
The Moroccan Association for Human Rights is organizing a protest to demand respect for the law, particularly the public freedoms law that guarantees the right to assembly, peaceful demonstration, and freedom of opinion, expression, and association. The protest will take place on Sunday, July 16, in front of the Parliament building. We stand firm against 9 years of harassment and siege, determined to resist the regime's attacks.
While the Moroccan government claims to uphold rights and freedoms, its actions contradict its words, as it adopts tactics to curtail the activities of democratic organizations.
The Democratic Left Federalist Party has planned a symposium on corruption and normalization under the slogan "Dangers of the Present and Threats to the Future." However, despite booking the venue and receiving approval from the relevant authority, we have been informed that the hall is already reserved for another event. This is a disguised form of prohibition and a restriction on the work of democratic organizations.
In addition to stifling activities and imposing restrictions, the Moroccan regime resorts to defaming activists, manipulating the judiciary and media against them, cutting off public support for organizations and parties, and employing extortion and threats against many activists and organizations.
In the African continent still, the Sahrawi Foreign Minister Mohamed Sidati will participate Thursday in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, in the meeting of the Executive Council of the African Union, which is held within the framework of preparation for the biannual coordination summit. The meeting will address a number of important issues related to African affairs in light of the report submitted by the Committee of Permanent Representatives of Member States. The Council of Foreign Ministers of the Union will also discuss matters related to the governors and the various programs of the African Union, such as economic integration at the level of the continent. The Algerian National Gendarmerie in Iran dismantled an international criminal network specialized in organizing and managing secret cruises from Morocco to Spain via Algeria. 32 people, most of whom hold Moroccan nationality, were arrested, and a boat equipped with an engine, 4 tourist cars, and sums of money in local and foreign currencies were seized. This is the second operation of its kind in a few days. Nearly 11,000 people in southwestern Niger have fled their homes this month. The United Nations and local authorities said in a report. Same sources stated that over 10,800 people from 9 villages in Oro area were forced to flee their homes in this current month. The UN agency said that the migration was sparked by the killing of 2 villagers, joined with challenge from armed groups to leave their homes within 72 hours. Syrian Foreign Minister Faisal al-Muqdad affirmed that Damascus will soon reopen its embassy in Tunisia and appoint an ambassador in order to give additional push to Tunisian-Syrian relations and to enhance various aspects of bilateral cooperation. This came during a phone call that al-Muqdad had with his Tunisian counterpart, Nabil Ammar, according to a statement by the Tunisian Foreign Ministry, adding that the call tackled bilateral relations and ways and means to further strengthen and enhance them for the benefit of the 2 countries and the 2 brotherly peoples. A fresh bid to halt fighting between Sudan's warring factions and contain the humanitarian crisis, and unleashed by leaders neighboring countries in Egypt in a bid to stop Sudan's 3-month battle between rival generals.
Leaders from Sudan's 6 neighboring countries met in Cairo on Thursday for the most high-profile peace talks since the conflict erupted across the northeastern African country in mid-April, when tensions between the military and the parliamentary rapid support forces burst into open fighting.
Ethiopia once again calls for, firstly, an unconditional and indefinite ceasefire. Secondly, immediate delivery of humanitarian assistance to all beneficiaries affected by the violent conflict.
The summit of neighboring states aimed at reviving international efforts to contain the war. In a joint statement, leaders called on the warring parties to commit to a ceasefire, appealed to regional states not to interfere in the conflict, and agreed to facilitate funneling of aid.
This initiative is good, but it's a start to an extremely long journey, because to move from the condition that the Sudanese people are currently in to reach safety, that will take efforts, time, and resources. As mentioned before, there should be a clear mechanism with practical references.
The meeting comes weeks after the failure of many diplomatic efforts to reach an end to the Sudanese war, despite the aggravation of its human and material losses, while it caused a wave of displacement as it is still ongoing. The confrontations in Khartoum are threatening to turn into a full-scale civil war in the country that could destabilize the entire region. The Rapid Support Forces and the Sudanese army have agreed to at least 10 ceasefires, many of which were brokered during the Jeddah talks, all of the truces foundered.
Now, in the Middle East, Zionist occupation forces launched on Thursday a massive campaign of harass against Palestinians in various areas of the occupied West Bank and Al-Quds after raiding their homes. Dozens of settlers stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque under the protection of the occupation forces and carried out a provocative tour in its East Bank, while others destroyed Palestinian property. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Foreign Ministry condemned the violations and attacks of the occupations against the Palestinians and their property and sanctities, calling on the international community to translate its positions and words into actions. In Europe, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen urged on Thursday Russian President Vladimir Putin to prolong a deal allowing the Black Sea export of Ukraine grain, saying that consequences of not doing so would be global food insecurity. The ball was now in Russia's court, with the whole world watching. Von der Leyen told a press conference alongside UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
Secretary General, I want to thank you for your tireless efforts to prolong the Black Sea Grain Initiative. The world needs it. Russia has a responsibility to prolong it. Otherwise, global food insecurity will be the consequence. So now the ball is in President Putin's court, and the world is watching.
In the same line of thought, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that supplies of new weapons to Ukraine would change nothing on the battlefield, but would only further escalate the conflict over there. Putin said that tanks provided by Western powers to Ukraine would be a priority target for Russian forces fighting there. He reiterated his position to Ukraine joining NATO, saying that it would threaten Russia's own security.
As for Ukraine's membership in NATO, we said this a number of times. This creates threats for Russia's security, obviously. And one of the reasons for the special military operation is the threat of Ukraine joining NATO. I'm convinced that it won't improve the security of Ukraine itself, and in general, it will make the world a lot more vulnerable and will lead to additional tension on the international stage.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov affirmed on Thursday that his country constantly supports the strengthening of its infrastructure in Asia-Pacific region because it is the basis for security and stability in the region. During a meeting with his counterparts in Association of Southeast Asian Nations in Jakarta, Lavrov noted that Moscow is well aware that its endeavor is not supported by everyone, but it is guided by objective talks. Russia seeks to promote closer economic, political, and security relations with Asia, especially in light of the Western sanctions imposed on it since the start of the special military operation in Ukraine.
We constantly support the strengthening of our special infrastructure, which should remain the basis of peace and sustainable development in Asia-Pacific region. We know that this doesn't suit some people. However, we are not guided by the desires of some parties, but by the objective tasks, which consist of securing peace and stability in this vast space.
China's top diplomat Wang Yi said on Thursday that China and ASEAN are moving forward with talks on third version of the free trade agreement. In a speech during the ASEAN summit held in the Indonesian capital, Jakarta, and the Chinese official stressed that Beijing supports the full implementation of the regional comprehensive economic partnership. He also pointed out that China is ready to enhance cooperation with the ASEAN and develop relations between the two sides at a time when international order is going through deep and complex developments.
At a time when the international order is going through deep and complex developments, China is ready to enhance cooperation with ASEAN and develop relations between the two sides in addition to deepening inclusive strategic partnership in order to create more propitious strategic environment for their development and to achieve peace and stability on the long run in the region.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and China's top diplomat Wang Yi met on the sideline of the meeting of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in Jakarta on Thursday. Wang, a former foreign minister and the current head of the ruling Communist Party's Central Commission for Foreign Affairs, represented China for talks after Beijing announced that Chinese Foreign Minister Ji Jiang was unwell. The U.S. and China are taking part in the ASEAN meeting in the Indonesian capital as dialogue partners of the 10-member bloc. US President Joe Biden said that the United States welcomes Finland and Sweden to join the bloc NATO, noting that his country and the rest of the bloc countries share the same challenges with them. During talks with his Finnish counterpart in the capital Helsinki, the US President affirmed that the United States is committed to defending everyone and every inch of NATO territory, including Finland.
Let's finish the historic NATO summit. I think it was historic, where we welcomed Finland's accession to NATO and reached an agreement to move forward on Sweden's membership in NATO. And it was a reminder that the nations around the table are not only share common history, but we share common challenges. And I would add, presumptuously, common values. And, the vision for the world that we all share, and I think it's a very similar vision, is one that's more free, more secure, and opportunities made available for all.
Back to the African continent, particularly to the Sahrawi cause, where the UN Security Council has circulated the letter of the representative of the Polisario Front to the United Nations and coordinator with MINURSO, Sidi Mohammed Ammar, in which he refuted the false allegations put forth by the representative of the Moroccan occupying state to the United Nations, Mohammed Khatou.
In a letter circulated to the members of the UN Security Council, the representative of the Polisario Front to the United Nations, Sidi Mohammed Ammar, reveals the immoral practices of the Makhzen regime, which recourses to lies and misinformation to mislead the public opinion on the question of Western Sahara and in an attempt to escape responsibility. Among the forms of this misinformation, the attempts of the representative of the Moroccan occupying state to the United Nations to distort the legal and political frameworks of the Sahrawi issue based on the Madrid Accords signed between Morocco, Spain and Mauritania in 1975.
The Madrid Agreement did not transfer sovereignty over the territory, did not grant any of the signatory states that the status of the administrating power, and did not affect the legal status by describing Western Sahara as a non-self-governing territory.
The Moroccan occupation fell in its own contradictions. According to the Polisario Front representative, as the division of the territory in the 70s proves once again the colonial ambitions of the Makhzen regime and its expansionist dreams, which affected even its neighbors.
The Moroccan occupying state, in implementation of its colonial ambition and expansionist dreams, has also claimed Mauritania as part of its so-called empire and has refused to recognize an independent Mauritania for nearly a decade. In addition to its illegal occupation of Western Sahara, the Moroccan occupying state still claims for itself some divine rights over part of its neighbors.
In order to prove the Makhzen regime's ill intentions, the Sahrawi diplomat questions the non-holding of a self-determination referendum in Western Sahara and the subjecting of the occupied territories to a complete blockade away from the sight of the press and UN and international organizations.
If the situation in occupied Western Sahara is as it is described by the representatives of the occupying power, why does the entire territory remain under military blockade and a complete media blackout? And why do Moroccan authorities continue to prevent UN bodies, special reporters, NGOs, international media, and observers from entering the territory?
Despite the lies and misinformation campaign waged by Morocco, the people of Western Sahara will never give up their inalienable right to self-determination and independence and never stop their struggle towards freedom.
And now for more international news, let's tackle this roundup.
Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi arrived in Zimbabwe's capital on Thursday for his final stop on his African tour, where he was greeted at the airport by his Zimbabwean counterpart. Following official visits to Kenya and Uganda, Raisi's three-nation tour concludes in Zimbabwe, where Iran signed bilateral cooperation agreements in each country.
Despite a court suspension, Guatemala's anti-graft Semilla party said on Thursday that it would participate in the August presidential runoff between its candidates. Prosecutors raided the Electoral Court's Citizen Registry Office on Thursday morning as part of an investigation into the Semilla party, which they claim has over 5,000 illegally affiliated members, including 12 deceased people.
A brawl broke out in the Kosovo parliament after an opposition lawmaker threw water on Prime Minister Albin Kurti as he spoke about government measures to defuse tensions with ethnic Serbs in the country's north. The incident was deemed unacceptable by Parliament Speaker, who delayed the session for 2 hours.
South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol started a 2-day visit to Warsaw on Thursday. The meeting comes a day after the NATO summit in Vilnius, which both presidents attended, and one of the key factors for this visit is that the South Korean leader sought to deepen ties with the military alliance amid global security threats, including Russia's war on Ukraine and North Korea's illicit nuclear program.
At the closure of our news bulletin, of course, we end up with sport. And at the conclusion of its meeting in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire's capital, or Ivory Coast, the African Confederation of Football CAF unveiled the preliminary draw for the 2026 World Cup African qualifiers. Our national football team and the continent champion in 2019, Algeria, features in Group G alongside Uganda, Mozambique, Somalia, Botswana, and Guinea, with whom they will compete to secure a place in the next World Cup hosted by Canada, USA, and Mexico. It's worth noting that the qualifying games will take place over the next 2 years, starting this year in November 2023.
Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, Ethiopia, and...
We are FIFA, we are Africa, we are 26. We will have all African countries participating in what will be an incredibly exciting and passionate qualification path to the World Cup 2026. We are looking forward to this draw, but then most importantly to the games and all the emotions that we'll feel in this incredible continent. So here from Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, beautiful city, beautiful country, to the whole of Africa and to the entire world. Welcome. This is the trophy that all of you in this room want to win. Maybe in 26, well, that's all I wish to all of you, but I wish the same to every other country in the world as well. Here it is, it's already in Africa. It's the first preliminary draw for the World Cup. The best of luck to all of you, and thanks for everything.
And that would be great if an African team take the World Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for being with us in this late hour. For more updates, you can follow social media platform. And all I can say at the end, take care of yourself and have a blessed Friday. Good night.